Okay, yeah, let's get started here. We'll see. I'm sure more will come in as we go, but yeah, welcome to everybody. Thanks for joining. Yeah, super excited about this presentation. Something I've been looking forward to for a while. Actually, something quite near and dear to my heart. I did play college soccer quite a few years ago now. You see me up there actually. So played at Viterbo for 4 years, and something I'm passionate about. I want to make sure all the players at the club have an opportunity to experience the same thing I got to experience. So I'll kind of run through what it's going to look like today. We want to make this as interactive as possible. We've got a panel of experts, and you can ask them questions, talk with them, have a bit of FaceTime with them. But at the beginning, we'll present a few things here, get you some information, and kind of go from there. So that'll be kind of the running order of things. So yeah, we'll get started here. Just a quick one, actually. If you have questions or you have a comment or whatever it is, you can either do two things. You can either write your question in the chat, and I'll get to it, or you can do that little kind of wave emoji, and we can get to that question too. So what I would encourage you to do is to write 2 or 3 questions down that you can use at the end, that you can ask any one of our panel members at the end of the presentation. So yeah, so we'll start. Just a subtle little brag for our Eden Prairie Soccer Club. We have quite a rich history of college soccer players at the club. You can see in this picture here. I think this was from a couple of years ago. This was all players who had played at EPSC that were playing at the collegiate level, all around the nation, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, NAI, all over the place. So that was a good year, and there's a lot still playing from this picture here. So so yeah, bit of introduction to this and EPSC and college. So that,
okay, I will scroll it.
Can you please? So we have a rich history of players going up to the collegiate level. It's something that we really players. Let me just mute that. Get back to it. So yeah, we have a rich history of players going on to the next level, and we've developed some good relationships with schools and coaches. And we kind of have a path for players to get to the next level. So it's preparing them off the field, it's preparing them on the field. And you have a good understanding of the pathway. So events, camps, the communication with the coaches, nights like tonight where we present to you and give you the right information to hopefully help you on your way. So it's a few pictures here and a few little pieces that we do. So we have a college showcase event that typically runs in December or January. This year it was in December. It was actually our 11th year of running it. We hosted at the Dome. It's for the girls college showcase players, and we get lots of coaches from around actually the country in some cases, mostly local schools, Division 1 through Division 3. We have NAIA schools and community college, so a wide range for coaches to see players. It's a really great event. I don't think many people would actually know that we do it, but we have our U16 through U19 girls teams play against some of the top teams from the Midwest. You can see in this top right corner here, this was just a few of the schools that attended our last event. Even with it, the day itself was actually, I don't know, 12, 13 inches of snow. It was pretty crazy, and all these people showed up. So a really good event, something we look forward to as well. And this picture below here is from a couple of years ago in the Dome from our event. We also send a lot of teams all across the nation, locally, regionally, nationally, to different events that we know have been proven to help players get noticed. There's just a few of them there. You can see these 2 teams, the girls team on that bottom left there, they just got back from Phoenix at the President's Day Cup, had a great time there. And the boys in the bottom right were in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and they had a really good event over there against some really good competition. But most importantly, a lot of college coaches there. Then just briefly, I don't think people, maybe we don't advertise this enough, but there's a lot of players from kind of each class that go on to play at the next level. So this is the 2022 class. You can see quite a few females, local colleges around here. Andre going down to William Penn. And so good class, and there's quite a few more that haven't committed yet, but are likely to play. So this was our 2021 class. Actually, just a few of them. A lot of the boys went to Eau Claire, Luther. We had a Division I player at High Point, a couple Division II players at Concordia, St. Paul, and UMD, and then some players in the MIAC, like Izzy in the top right. She went to Augsburg, and Erica Golenza, who was at the club for many years, went to St. Ben's. So yeah, kind of a rich history. Like I said, lots of players go off and play, and I like to think we help them a little bit on their way. So without me talking too much, I'm going to actually introduce our panel. When I kind of give you your rundown, if you want to give us a wave, I'll introduce them, and then I'm going to let them speak for a couple of minutes just about their background, important information they want to share, and yeah, just a little bit of their college experience. So we have Kaisha Benson, who many of you probably already know. She's our goalkeeper director. Just some brief pieces on her background. She was an NCAA D2 goalkeeper up at Iowa. She spent 3 years as an assistant coach up Iowa as well. And kind of a different angle, she did 6 years of college admissions work around the country. So she has that kind of admissions side that she'll touch on in just a little bit here. We have Zoe. Give us a wave, Zoe. There's Zoe. She's currently the assistant coach at Gustavus Adolphus women's program. She's in her 3rd season there. She's done 3 years as a grad assistant at William Smith, and she was an NCAA Division III player at William Smith College, where she did win a national championship. So quite a big deal there. I'd like to introduce Luke Dunn. He's men's angle. He was a Division I player at Valparaiso. He was a former assistant coach at Purdue University Northwest, former goalkeeper coach at Trine University, and he's in his 3rd season as men's coach at Viterbo University, where this past season he led them to a conference record 16 wins and a conference semifinal. So I'm an alumni from that school, so it's great to see Luke doing such good things with that program. So we're lucky to have him here. Katie is our player angle. There's Katie. I'm lucky enough to coach her for many years, or for a couple of years actually. She just graduated from Gustavus, where she was all conference academic, all conference on the field, led the team in goals for 3 consecutive seasons, 20 career goals. But most importantly, she played, I think, 8 to 10 years at Eden Prairie Soccer Club in high-level girls teams. So she traveled the country, and she knows the recruiting process well. So I'm going to turn it over to our experts, to our panel, and I'll let Keisha, I'll let you give us a little background, a couple of minutes, and then I'll turn over to the next person. So if you think of some questions to write down, we'll go from there. Take it away, Keisha.
Sounds good. Like Chris said, I'm Keisha Benson. I am newer to the club, but my current role is director of goalkeeping, and I'm also the marketing director for the club. So I've enjoyed my time here so far, and I've gotten to know a lot of the players along the way, which is awesome. My biggest background for this presentation is in regards to admissions, and to answer any questions that you guys have about the enrollment process in general, because whether you're a student athlete or not, it's basically the same process either way. So please feel free to ask any questions about that. I've worked at 3 different universities for over 6 years. So been in the Midwest, East Coast, and in Colorado, where I just recently moved from. So that is the biggest thing I'm on here for, is admissions. Any questions about that?
Thanks, Keisha. Luke, I'll let you give us a little background on you next.
Yeah, my name's Luke. Like Chris said, played collegiately, was fortunate to play at the Division I level. And then I think fortunate as well through the relatively short time I've been coaching, been able to either be an assistant or head coach at the Division II, Division III, and NAI level. So it's been a cool experience to be able to see each of the different levels, get a feel for the differences between those. Feel like I've had a unique opportunity to experience all of those. So that's something I've really enjoyed so far as a coach.
Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it. Zoe, I'll let you go next here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Chris. Like Chris said, I went to a Division III school. Love my experiences there. Really lucky to play for a top team and win a national championship all the way back in 2013. I actually stayed at that school post-grad, 3 years, worked on their staff and in the admissions office. And then I came out here about 2.5 years ago, and have loved my experiences ever since. As an East Coaster in the Midwest, it's a lot colder here. But anyway, yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Zoe. And Katie, lastly, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I'm Katie. I played, growing up, I'm from Chaska, but I played club soccer at Eden Prairie and always had such a great experience there. And yeah, I actually ended up playing 5 years at Gustavus because of the pandemic. They gave everyone an extra year of eligibility, so I took advantage of that. So this past season was actually my super senior season, which was super fun. We had a really great run, so it was definitely a great note to end on. But yeah, I have a lot of experience, recent experience playing college soccer and finding that balance between academics and extracurriculars and the recruiting process and figuring out, what college is best for you. And so definitely I'd say that's kind of my role on this call. So yeah, if you have any questions catered to that, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you, Katie. So yeah, you can see we've kind of got a wide range of different people from NCAA Division I all the way to Division III, NAIA, men's and women's coaches, admissions, assistant coaching, head coaching. So we'll hope to cover as much as we can and be able to answer your questions. So what I'll do now, I'm going to ask some of our panel some questions here that probably will be pretty popular questions. And it gives you a bit of time to think about some questions that you want to ask. So Luca, I'll start with you here because I think this is probably going to be the big question. I think this is one people will probably ask the most is, how do you recruit players and what is the best way for players to get noticed?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the good answer for players is there's a lot of ways to get recruited and get noticed. It's not like you only have one opportunity or one situation that will work for everyone. So I think the biggest thing as a player is to play and get exposure. And that can come in different ways. That can come through showcase events. It can come through tournaments you attend, regular season games, state cup games. I mean, it can even come through high school soccer. There's a lot of ways people can see you. And sometimes as a player, you never know who's watching. So I think the biggest thing as a player is to try and play as much as you can, get out in front of people, perform well. And if you do that, opportunities will come. So I think as a player, there's things you can do to improve that, such as having film, reaching out to coaches, creating social media profiles to put yourself out there. But if you're not playing, all of those other things don't really matter. So I think that's where it all starts, is play as much as you can, take every opportunity you have to play, and then do things on top of that for additional outreach, whether it be highlight films, emails, social media accounts, using recruiting platforms, things like that. I think those are things that will help you go above and beyond to get noticed.
Great, thank you, Luke. That's a great answer. Zoe, I know you do a lot of recruiting, or especially around the Midwest. You seem to be at events every other weekend, and so you see a lot of players, and you know what it takes for players to play at that level. Could you touch on what soccer traits and maybe even what non-soccer traits you look for specifically in players when you recruit?
Yeah, definitely. I think every program might have a slightly different, few things that they look for. So I'll talk a little bit more on the Gustavus side, but we really look for players with a high soccer IQ, willingness to possess. That's our style of play. So some teams out there like to play that long ball type style, and they might look for that. And we look for quickness, in short spaces, on and off the ball as well. I think the non-soccer traits are just as, if not maybe even a little bit more important than the soccer traits, because as coaches, part of our role is to teach those traits as well. And so, those non-soccer traits are purely, are you going to be coachable? But within that is, being really positive. Can you bring a unique perspective to our team and community? And are you willing to be, a good member of our team and our community as well? We care about people who, want to be a part of a family, and, really care about their fellow teammates, and everyone they're surrounded by. And so those are a couple key things that we specifically look for.
Okay. And Luke, just because there's a slight difference between that NCAA Division 3 and NAIA. What do you look for when you recruit? I'm sure you go to plenty of events. What stands out with players? What makes them stand out, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like Zoe said, there are certain things that I'll look for based on our team. Players that kind of fit our style, fit roles we may be looking for, and we can identify those. As I'm looking, I don't want players to think they have to be a complete player and expect like, hey, you have to be ready right away. Part of our job as coaches is to bring you in and develop you and help you become better. So, I don't want players to think, oh, I have to be like a college ready player that's ready to step in and be an All-American right away. We work to teach you some of those stuffs, and we're realistic about, hey, what should a player be able to do and not be able to do? And then some things that help players stand out is, I think, their play, obviously, on the field, but then what else they bring to the team. So you can stand out both positively and negatively. It's easy to stand out if you're the loudest one on the team, because every time something goes wrong, you're complaining to the referee or you're getting frustrated with your teammates. So sometimes players stand out for the wrong reason, but then there's other times where obviously players stand out for their work rate or their communication with their teammates, or that they always have a positive attitude. When someone makes a mistake, they're the first one to pick them up and encourage them and help them get over that. So little things like that have nothing to do with how well you kick a ball can really help you stand out. Because the team aspect in college is extremely important, and being able to buy into the program that's in place and become a part of that family and culture is extremely important. So if as we're watching players, if we see flaws in their game, if we see technical mistakes, those are things as a coach we understand, and we say, hey, that's part of our job to fix it. But if we see character flaws and flaws of, hey, they're just not disciplined, or those kind of stand out of, well, maybe we can't fix those. Maybe that's things we can't work with, or they're not going to necessarily mesh or fit into our team. So I think, like Zoe said, in a way, those things might be even more important to a team and a culture. Is, are you a good player, but are you someone that's going to help our team in aspects besides just your play on the field as well?
Yeah, definitely. Just to kind of segue into that. So Katie, I'll ask you, because you've been through the college recruiting process most recently. What was your experience when you were getting recruited? How did you find a school? What age did you start looking? What did you do to maybe put yourself in the shop window, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like Luke talked about, I think the biggest piece for me was just playing a lot and getting that exposure. So early on, like freshman and sophomore year, it was mostly just getting out to those showcase tournaments and knowing that obviously that's pretty early to start, but just having that name in the back of coaches' heads, right? Like, oh, maybe she's a freshman right now, but definitely someone to keep our eye on a couple years from now. And definitely just getting that exposure is super important. And then just taking advantage of the resources, especially like here at EP, all the resources I have to really get into that recruiting process when you're going to different events and different showcase tournaments, just taking the time to write these emails and be specific, right? Like, here's the field we're playing at, what time we're at, we're going to be in this color, this is my jersey number, you know, if something goes wrong and we're not in this jersey color, this is our away jersey, and all that stuff. And just, you know, being as thorough as you can and getting your name out there. And obviously it's different with every college. Some you might hear back from, some you might not, but just having that practice of interacting with coaches is really important. And so that was kind of the next step for me, was just drafting those emails and sending them out and having communication. And then once I started hearing back, you know, kind of end of my sophomore year, beginning of my junior year, that's really when I started to look at schools. So my junior year, I took some time to tour different schools and just get a feel for, you know, the different places I had been looking at. And then also really nailing down, getting used to the team and seeing what that's like, because, you know, no matter how much a coach may want you, you know, it really depends on how you feel like you fit in with the team, because you have to picture yourself there for 4 years. So it's that combination of feeling like that college is kind of your home away from home, but also making sure that you buy into what the team builds. And that was kind of the biggest thing for me at Gustavus, was not only did the campus atmosphere really feel like home for me, but, you know, having that overnight with the girls and just seeing them practice and seeing, you know, their work and their effort on the field and how they bond off the field was definitely the biggest thing that I took home. Because at the end of the day, you know, you spend a lot of time with these people. When you're in season, you're with them every single day, and preseason is like all you do is play soccer. And so you really have to, you know, feel like you fit in and you care about the things that the team cares about. And so, yeah, after that, I just kind of, you know, fell in love with Gustavus, and it felt like the right place for me. So I talked to the coaches on, you know, how to commit moving forward after I had done my overnight. And I think that's definitely what brought it home for me, was spending a night there and waking up and realizing, like, yeah, I can picture myself being here and playing on this team. And so, yeah, that was really helpful. And obviously they have great coaches, so it was easy to work with them and figure out, you know, how to put my deposit in and, you know, everything moving forward. But yeah, I think just that combination of exposure and getting emails out there and not being afraid to, you know, put your name out there, and don't be disappointed if you don't hear back, because the right opportunity will come, and you just have to, you know, really drive home what you want and then seek that out. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up at Gustavus, and yeah, haven't really looked back since.
Good. Yeah, it seems like you had a great 5 years there. And just to go along with that, because there's quite a few of the players probably on this call at the moment that are going through the process. Number one, was it stressful? And number two, what was maybe something you wish you knew before you kind of got into it? What was something that, whether it's writing the email, how to form email, anything like that, what was something you wish you knew before?
Yeah, I definitely would say it was stressful, just because, you know, at first it can be overwhelming to see all those schools, especially when you're going to a showcase tournament and you get this list of hundreds of schools, and you're like, I mean, not to be lazy, but I don't want to look up all of these schools and figure out like which ones sound good and which ones don't. So you kind of have to navigate, you know, figuring out, okay, well, I can narrow it down by, where do I want to go? Do I want to stay in Minnesota? Do I want to branch out? And then, you know, also by level, do I want to play D1, D2, D3? And so I definitely think that was stressful for me, just going through all of those questions of, do I want to go to a big school or a small school, or what level you want to play at? And so it's stressful, but once you sit down and think it through, it makes everything so much easier, because then you have these kind of guidelines you can follow when you're looking through, you know, where you want to go and who you want to email. And yeah, I definitely would say there's a lot of little things that I wish I would have known before, you know, drafting an email, how you talk to coaches, how you decide even, you know, what you are looking for. And I think a big part of it is just trial and error, right? You go to a college, you tour it, and you realize this isn't what I wanted, this isn't what I expected. And then, okay, I won't look at colleges that are similar in size or similar in location. But I definitely think, you have to go into it with the mindset of, I'm going to go to places that I really like, and I'm going to go to places that I don't. And you just have to be willing to get that experience, because, I can't picture myself at anywhere other than Gustavus, but I definitely think one of the things that I wish I would have known or could have done more of was just really getting those in-person visits, because that's the biggest piece of it. Even if you end up going there, playing soccer for a year and deciding, I don't want to play, can you still see yourself going to school there, right? Because at the end of the day, that's such a big part of what you're going to be doing. And so just making sure that that campus really feels like home, even outside of your sport, was definitely something that was helpful, and something that I honestly wish I would have thought a little bit more about.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Keisha, we'll move into the admissions side with you, and then we'll kind of maybe look to open up to some questions from our audience here. But I guess it's kind of a general question, because it kind of covers a lot here, and like you said, it's maybe not even so much to do with the collegiate soccer side of it, but what is the college search process like in general? And can you touch on the academics, eligibility, maybe deadlines, grades, all those kind of pieces? Because I think, like Katie had mentioned, that's almost the most important side of it. Is the school the right fit for you? And does it have you major? Does it have you got the grades for it? All those kind of pieces. So could you give us a little breakdown on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of little things that go into the search process, to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to keep it as general as possible, because all schools are honestly different in their requirements of grades and deadlines and everything like that. But the number one step is to search. Like Katie said, go to campuses, make sure it feels right for you. In the search process, you're going to want to look at websites, make sure they have the program that you're looking for, majors that you're looking for, clubs and organizations that you're looking for, things like that outside of athletics. Make sure that you do fall in within their requirements, because their requirements of GPA, test scores, things like that will be on their websites. Another big thing is just reaching out to admissions counselors or the admissions department. They're there to help you. And I don't want to say hold your hand, but they're there to hold your hand through the process. They're there every step of the way. And if you are being recruited, the coach is there to help you as well. 9 times out of 10, they're going to help you every step of the way. And the admissions counselor is kind of irrelevant. So you kind of have two people when you're an athlete, to be honest. So the search is the biggest part. Search a lot of schools, find the one that fits you best. Because like Katie said, if you end up only playing 1 or 2 years, you got to love where you go. So it's a huge thing. You got to love the major you're in, the clubs, the organizations, and the environment to make sure you feel safe, comfortable, and accepted in the environment that you're in. So that's the biggest part with the search. I would say when you narrow down your search, that's when you want to start applying. And that's going to be just different steps with every school. It's going to be different. You're going to apply. Almost all schools require transcripts and test scores. Some require essays, some require references. It just kind of depends. But your admissions team and your coaches would help you through that process. They're going to be there every step of the way to help you through that process. Same thing with deadlines. Deadlines are different for every single school. So the application deadline, their acceptance deadline, the deposit deadline, everything like that is going to be different at every school. So check the website, talk to the admissions team, talk to the coaches, because they're going to be there to tell you all those deadlines so you meet them correctly. And then it's just all about communication, right? So stay in contact with your admissions team, blow up their phone, blow up their email, because that's what they're there for. I remember talking to students at 10 o'clock at night sometimes just because they had questions, and that's exactly why they're there. So it's a huge part of the process, whether you're an athlete or not. You still have to get accepted into the school, and you still have to feel comfortable at that school. Take the time to thoroughly search and take into consideration all aspects of the school, and make sure you know the deadlines and everything that they require.
Okay, great. Thank you, Keisha. And just really quickly, just a couple of quick answers here, then we'll open it up. Zoe and Luke, I'll turn this over to you here, but I think one question people will ask is, what tools should I use? Or should I use any tools for when to get my name out there? So you mentioned a couple of recruiting websites, film. What are just really briefly, what are maybe 2 or 3 things that you'd highly recommend for players to take advantage of? I'll let Zoe, I'll let you start, or yeah, go for it.
Really, I mean, in a film, and that can be a video uploaded to YouTube, to be honest, is probably your best tool out there, because it's essentially free to upload a video. And you can include a lot in that. As a coach, you know, we want a nice snapshot of who you are as a player. And so nothing too long, but at the beginning of the video is kind of like, you can put in a little clip about, you know, your name, your year, your email, your contact info, your grade, point average, like that kind of thing. And to be honest, that's a great way to introduce yourself to coaches of all different levels. They'll watch it and then get a good feel for who you are, and probably be that much more likely to go see you play when you invite them to something, games, showcases, etc. That is probably the biggest tool that we use here, because it's pretty accessible to everyone. There are tons of different recruiting websites out there, but again, the simple thing, sometimes simple is best, and uploading a video to YouTube can get you or bring you a long way. So that would be my biggest tool.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and I know, Luke, it might be slightly different for you with the amount of international players you have in the team. You've got players from all around the world, but what's the best tool for local talent? How do you spot that?
Yeah, so something I've really noticed in the past year or two is the use of social media, and that can be used by someone down the road from the university to someone all the way on the other side of the world. So that's kind of why I think that's taken off so much. And you can, as a player with social media, you can really create your own platform and come across exactly how you want to come across. So I think that's something that's good. The nice part is it's easy, it's free. Younger generation is very good with social media. I've even seen some players that on their social media pages will have created their own website, and they'll include an additional link to where it says, hey, here's my film, here's my website, and that lists all kinds of stuff on it. They can list academic accolades, their achievements. They can put their film on there. They can put references to call their coaches. I mean, there are some people that are getting very creative with how they're kind of creating their own personal image and personal identity and projecting it out there, which I think is great. And it kind of gives you the freedom to put out there what you want, which is always nice.
Yeah, and I think one thing people, there's a lot of things out there, different websites and recruiting agencies, and I think obviously they probably help in some way, maybe give you an advantage, but like the coaches have been saying here, something even as simple as YouTube, I think people can make videos super easy now and upload them, and it's a pretty easy process and free. And social media, like Luke said, that's super easy to use and way of kind of getting yourself out there. So I think from my end, I would be a bit hesitant to really push all these kind of other recruiting websites and agencies. I think there's a lot you can do on your own where it can be super easy and accessible to coaches, and that's what gets your name out there. So that would be one thing I would just kind of be wary of. I'm not saying they're a bad thing to do, but I think there's probably easier options to get your name out there and get your face shown. So so yeah, what we'll do now is open it up to any questions people may have, and please don't be shy to ask questions because this is interactive. What's easy for us to answer or is not always something that you want the answer from. So just answer any question, ask any question you want, and we'll kind of direct it to the right person here. So it can be a chat, it can be a hand emoji, and you can unmute yourself and show your camera. So we'll open it up to the floor here. So someone be brave and ask the first question.
Hey, Chris, it's Rick Jones.
Hey, Rick.
I'll be brave and ask the first question.
Okay.
So, I mean, really good information about getting seen by local colleges. And I think that, you know, we experience that. They show up at a lot of the showcases and the tournaments that are here. The thing that we struggle with a little bit is, okay, we're going to Vegas in 2 weeks. There may be somebody that comes by and watches the game for 20 minutes or something, and then they're gone, right? And that may be their only live exposure to you. So, you know, is that enough? Or if that's a college, is the suggestion that you got to get back in front of them somehow, some way, you know, at a different time? They may be 1,000 miles away, right? So it's different than, you know, across the river in Wisconsin or something.
Yeah, I'll give that one to Luke there, because he recruits people from thousands, tens of thousands of miles away. So I think you have a play for Australia, don't you? So I'll let maybe you take that one, Luke.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's something. So ironically, I'll actually be in Vegas in 2 weeks as well, out at the showcase. So for me, there's two reasons why I would stop at a field at a showcase. Typically, if it's that big, where you know going into it, you're not going to see every team play. So the first reason I would stop at a field is if anyone has reached out beforehand expressing, hey, I'm interested in Viterbo. I'd love to come, have you watch me play. This is a showcase I'll be at. So the first step is identifying, based on the college list, who's going to be out there. Are there any schools I'm interested in? And it is a good opportunity for them to see me play. Because as a coach, we have to, you know, be economical with our time. So I don't want to go out and saying, okay, there's 50 different teams I have to see in 3 days. So divided up, I get an average of 10 minutes per team, and just, you know, bouncing around 10 minutes at a time, watching. So I pick and choose, okay, has anyone expressed an interest? If yes, I want to make sure I go see them. That way I can either talk with them out at the showcase, I can follow up with them afterwards and say, hey, thanks for reaching out. It was great to see you. Here's some feedback, and go from there. Maybe it's realistic for them to come visit campus. Maybe not. That's you know, kind of like a personal part of it. It might work, it might not. The second way that I would stop at a field is if it's pertains to our recruiting. So if there's a game of 2008 boys playing, they could be the two best 2008 boys teams in the world, and I'm probably not going to stop and watch them, because it's just too young for me to be recruiting that age at my school. It just doesn't make sense. So I think it also, you have to consider, okay, where am I at in my recruiting process? If I'm looking at, you know, let's say you're a woman on the Division I side. If you're a sophomore, schools are probably going to be watching you much more than me as an NAIA coach will be watching guys that are sophomores. So I think you take into consideration, what stage am I and people in my shoes at with our recruiting process? Should we expect a whole bunch of coaches to be on the sideline? Should we, you know, be seeking them out? Are most people my age already committed? Those things will come into play. So there are different reasons why a coach stops, but I think the biggest thing is if you want a specific coach to stop, especially if you're saying, hey, I'd like to go to a school out west, and you're in that region, make sure you reach out to them beforehand and let them know, I'm interested in your university. I'd like to go to school somewhere out here. I'd love to have you come watch me play, and let them know beforehand so they can pre-plan that, and they can know, okay, I want to go out and see this player play. It'll be worth my time.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, any more questions? Thanks, Rick, for that one. Looks like Brooke is asking, is managing schoolwork and soccer together difficult? That's a great question, Brooke. I will let Katie take that one because she's the one that's been most recently in school. So go ahead, Katie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely it's something that's a learning curve, right? As is everything. I mean, even if you're not playing a sport in college, that first week of getting your assignments and just having a new structure to school is always going to be difficult. But I think, you know, that's something that you can talk to your coaches about, especially going into it. I'm super lucky at Gustavus. We have a study hall program. So twice a week, all of the first years get together and they have an hour where it's just dedicated to doing your homework because, you know, that is part of the process of going to college is learning how to manage your time differently. I will say, though, I think that it's almost easier to do homework and manage your schoolwork when you're in season, which probably sounds kind of crazy, but you have so much more structure at that time, right? Especially in a fall sport, you come in and you know, I have practice at this time and class at this time. So this chunk of time is when I can get my homework done because then, you know, winter and spring comes around and you have so much extra time on your hands and you're kind of like, oh, I can wait to do my assignment till later. And so I think, you know, almost in kind of a weird way, having so much structure makes it almost easier because you know when you have homework, time to do your homework and when you don't. And so obviously that first couple of weeks is, you know, a learning curve and a process for everyone. And you learn, you know, how you manage your time in college and, you know, the best way for you to study. But I would definitely say, like, if that is something you're worried about going into the season or, you know, in that first week, you still feel like you're trying to figure it out, definitely reach out to your coaches or even your teammates or upperclassmen and just say like, hey, what worked for you, you know, kind of your process on how you study and how you prepare for things, especially when you're in season. But yeah, I would say it's almost easier in season just because you have so much more specific time that you can work on things.
Yeah. Thanks, Katie. Any other questions?
Chris, am I allowed to ask a second question?
Yeah, go for it, Rick, for sure.
All right. So as you know, my daughter, who's sitting next to me, is just coming, she's on the tail end of an injury period, right? She had surgery in August and she's now just a little bit of ways from being back on the field. What's the advice on how do you interact with coaches who are coming to these showcases and your daughter is either just getting onto the field for the first time or maybe on the sidelines, all that kind of stuff? And how do you talk about that just coming off a 7-month period where you haven't been playing?
Yeah, good question. Zoe, I'll let you take that one.
Awesome. That happened to me. And so I had an ACL in high school. Obviously not ideal, but I think the biggest part was being honest with coaches and going from there, essentially, and keeping up. I think the common thread through all this is that communication piece. And so if you had been talking to coaches beforehand, of really communicating with them about everything. And then if there are new coaches, right, you're inviting people to games as well, letting them know. I mean, at the end of the day, I think all coaches out there love the sport and the game because of players and getting to know players and want the best for all of their players. And so that's a big piece of it. And being honest and saying, hey, you know, just coming back off an ACL, first game or, you know, first couple games afterwards, but would love to have you see me play, and any feedback would be really appreciated. And going from there, I think that in my own recruiting, you know, story and whatnot, the coaches who communicated the most, even through my injury, you know, that ended up being where I went, because I knew they cared about me as a person and not just, you know, that soccer player who got hurt and was, you know, making my way back and whatnot. And so that communication piece, again, is probably the biggest piece of advice, and being honest, right? Of, hey, I'm really nervous to get back out there, but I'm also excited, or whatever that might be. And, you know, communicating that through.
Thanks, Zoe.
Yep.
Aaron asked, when you are in EPSC, are there going to be more games out of the state of Minnesota? Aaron, just kind of depends on what your team plan is and what you do with your team. So that's probably more of a team level type question, but thanks for asking it anyway. Probably time for 1 or 2 more questions, so we keep it under an hour. Yeah, it's quite a long time for a Monday. Anybody brave to ask 1 more? Rick, you're more than welcome to ask a third if you want. Okay, well, I think that's 47 minutes there. So I think that's perfect timing for it. Yeah, really, really good information here. And I can't thank the panel enough for jumping on and giving their experience. Like even I've been through this college process and I learned a lot of stuff tonight. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys jumping on, and yeah, I loved every second of it. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably potentially have a way of, you can maybe follow up with these people. I might get their contact if that's okay. And if you have maybe a direct question you want to ask them that you didn't ask in here, maybe you can reach out to them. But yeah, little plugs for Gustavus too and Viterbo, great schools, and you guys are doing great things there. So Keisha, Katie, thank you so much. That was really insightful. So Luke, Zoe, thank you again. So, okay, thanks guys. Speak to you soon. Thank you.